Hello, I'm Professor Lieu. Welcome to our live stream. Today we are going to be showing featured entries from the August Art Dare, which was to create a mosaic from household items. If you would like to grow as an artist and you can't afford an art class, we've got everything you need here at Art Prof, critiques and tutorials. The Art Dare in August was for people to use basically any items that you could get your hands on and create some type of mosaic in any form of any imagery. And I'll tell you guys, half the fun of this Art Dare was really getting a chance to see the different objects that people chose. And I really felt like that was very revealing about where people were from, what they were thinking about. That was really, really fun to take a look at. The first person we are going to look at is Lisa H., who was incredibly productive and prolific. And I think, Lisa, these aren't even all the pieces that you did. I believe that you have even more of these on your Instagram. And by the way, all of the links for the artists featured in this stream are in the video description below. So if you guys want to go check out their other work, that would be terrific. So one thing that was so cool about all of Lisa's pieces is that we had stuff like rubber duckies. There were also these casings and then fish marbles. I mean, this was just so much fun, Lisa, to take a look at all the different types of things you were doing. And I have to say, you guys hear me saying a lot on these streams and the Discord, the importance of being productive, making so many different iterations so that you really can play and experiment and not feel like your projects are so precious in a way. And I definitely think, Lisa, you took so much advantage of that. Great job. So I just want to read a little bit about Lisa's approach. So Lisa says in their artist statement, the approach to the dare was to make as many pieces as they could think of. As a result, some fun ideas developed in the process. I mean, guys, look at this. The shoes. Like, I think a lot of people think about mosaics as being with small objects. So we did see a bunch of those, the casings and also the rubber duckies and the marbles and stuff like this. But oh my God, when I saw this on Instagram, I just died, because not only is it so funny to use shoes, but the fact that the line slippers are in there just made me die. And then here's another iteration called Shoe Tree, which also has the shoes. But it's like, Lisa, you're really thinking about composition here, which is so exciting. And I just was thrilled by that. Lisa, I don't know where you got all these guitar picks, but Lisa actually did two versions. This one's called Pick Flower, and we also have this one, which is called Picking Daisy. I have no idea how one acquires so many guitar picks, but I just think that is just the coolest thing that you could come up with something like that. And we've got some really cool comments from people in the chat, like Phoebe P is saying that one looks cool, like the marbles are glowing. And Zoe is saying, so cute, the line slippers especially. Yeah, I would say if there's anything that is somewhat similar, Lisa, throughout all the pieces, despite how diverse they are, is there's really a sense of play. I mean, they're so funny, they're so whimsical, so really great job. Kankana is saying, can't figure out how to join the Discord. Okay, well, Kankana, the invite link is in the video description below. And if you have trouble with it still, you can always send us a message on Instagram and we'll try to help you out with that. Okay? All right. Let's take a look. Oh, this one too. This one is toys. And this, by the way, was part of the Art Dare Leap, which was to create a mosaic with complementary colors. So I just love that there's Tupperware lids in this. Like, who would have thought that you would use that item for a mosaic? Okay, the next artist we're going to look at is Rebecca Collins from the US. And Rebecca has three pieces that they created. And this particular piece called Extraordinary, they explain it's an experiment combining 24 karat gold smalty with cardboard. And I guess Rebecca says it would be rather naughty to take traditional tessera that can be found in historic churches and place it to common cardboard. So she says it was really liberating to place this like very precious 24 karat gold down next to recycled shipping supplies. Yeah, I find that very unusual because typically speaking, when you have recycled materials, you usually stick with that. When you have really beautiful, precious items that you're working with, you tend to want to only use them in that context. And so it's such a weird, I guess, tension between the beauty of the gold and also this ripped, almost beat up cardboard, which I think is really fun. All right, the next two pieces that Rebecca has, they're actually artworks. They're based on the human cell. And this is a theme that Rebecca's been working on for 5 years. Rebecca explains that they had a breast cancer diagnosis at the start of the abstractions, and that these started as simple doodles during chemo infusions. Cells worked their way into the mosaic work and mixed media collages once Rebecca started to feel better. And I just love these pieces. And if you guys get up close, you can see how three-dimensional they are. And they use so many different items. In this piece alone, there's bottle caps, comb teeth, fork tines, toothpicks, beads, found text, washers, cardboard, wood. I mean, I'm not somebody who works with 3D supplies that are recycled ever. It's just not my thing. So I always feel a little bit jealous of people who can do like a really amazing job and integrate so many different materials and get them to really work so fluidly. I mean, Rebecca, especially, I really, really enjoy the way you came up with such specific color schemes, like the fact that this one is all cool colors, this one is all warm colors. I mean, it really gives the pieces a very distinctive type of personality. And then it's interesting because if you think about it, this composition is like all circles. And you wouldn't really think that if something was all circles, it would still maintain our attention. And yet I think the range of sizes really key here, the way some of the circles overlap on top of each other, the way some of the circles are inside each other. I think it seems like a very complicated composition at first glance, but when you come down to it, you're like, oh, it's just circles. So I love, Rebecca, that you were able to really achieve that. So yeah, like I think Kankana is saying these pieces have creativity that is simply spot on. 10,000 Crows is saying, love this one, Rebecca. Blue Wolf Spirit says, not a lot of people work with 3D. That's so cool. And Blue Wolf Spirit points out, look at the text for the background. It's all medical stuff. Yep, I love that. I love that that has a real connection to the theme, because oftentimes people just slap together text and that's kind of it. But you can see in Rebecca's, the choice of the materials is so deliberate in terms of what they're meant to represent. Okay, the next piece we're going to look at is by Faba V from the US. And Faba explains that they were actually cleaning their room and found some pencil shavings on the floor and wondered what they would look like if they arranged them in circle and spirals. And I just love this because people came up with items for their household mosaics in the most unexpected ways. Like in some cases, people had items that they had been holding on to for a while. Other people went out and actively tried to search. But I love that Faba discovered these pencil shavings totally by accident. And sometimes artwork is like that. Sometimes stuff, you just stumble upon it and it happens to really work out. And I just think that's so cool. So Faba explains, I took a few hours arranging the pencil shavings first in a spiral and then just circles, being careful to blow away my progress by breathing on them. And then finally, it's a little bit hard to see in this slide. Maybe you guys can see a little bit better in this one. Faba actually sprinkled some colorful lead throughout the piece, which is brilliant. And you guys will notice also that these are not just regular pencil shavings. They actually sharpened a bunch of colored pencils and saved them on purpose. And so the color scheme in this one is very deliberate. And it's interesting because at first glance, it does feel very much like a cohesive color scheme. But then when you get up close, you realize, oh my God, there's all these colors that are really playing in between. I like that little discovery. It gives you a reason, I think, to really want to zoom in and look at the artwork much closer, which is hard to do. I think sometimes people don't feel the need to do that, but I think for sure this one really makes a big difference. This is a really cool comment from 10,000 Crows. I love how it kind of looks like a tree trunk. And Karen says, love all the diverse choice of materials. They look like they belong together. This is a comment for Rebecca. And Blue Wolf Spirit says, once you sneeze and it's gone. Oh yeah, for sure. That is definitely a problem. And oh, Phoebe P, are you Faba? I have no idea. It sounds like you are. I'm not sure. Sometimes you guys have different usernames across platforms and I can't tell who's who. Tessa says, I love the pencil shavings because every shaving is part of a story. I wonder what they helped to create. And Tom G says, beautiful composition of the shavings. Oh, cool. So Phoebe P, you are Faba. Okay, so Phoebe, this is Phoebe's piece. Very cool. We love it when the artist is here with us live in the chat. Okay, next artist we're going to look at is Melanie Diaz from Puerto Rico. And Melanie says that they're sustainable artists, so they really like upcycling, having different perspectives on everyday objects. And so Melanie does paint on wood that she recovers, and that's why they decide to use the wood as the base. But she decided to take the composition like literally outside of the box. And so that's why when you look at Melanie's mosaic, there is a large portion of the mosaic that continues outside of the wood base. So Melanie explains, and we can see up close, their favorite part was making the eyes. And this was really the piece that brought it alive. This is insane, you guys. Like, I literally just noticed this, okay? The eyes are actually bent bottle caps. And then Melanie painted some stones. The hair is peas. And the leaf is dried paint. The little leaf in the lower left-hand corner, if you guys see that like leaf shape, that's sort of green and yellow. And then the swirls painted on the wood base represent the movement of the air. Whoa, this is really cool. I mean, the assortment of supplies is just extraordinary. And so the title for this piece is Facing the Wind. In terms of the wind changing direction, as well as everything in life, facing change is difficult. So many different things. In fact, I don't know if you guys can see, but in the lower right-hand corner, there's actually an earring in there. And then I believe it's the eyebrows. There's like dried red pepper. There's birthday candles. There's lentils. I mean, so cool, you guys. I mean, it's such a rich composition. And Melanie, I love the fact that the hair really just spreads beyond that. I think a lot of people don't think to make an artwork that's an unusual shape. I think a lot of people, they tend to just sort of go for that default rectangle that we see a lot of people using. But I think there's an incredibly dynamic sense of motion because that hair does really break free out of that very rigid rectangle. So that is really, really cool to see that. Okay, so let's take a look at the next artist, who is Deanna J Adelhart. Sorry if I mispronounced her name, from the US. And Deanna explains that their husband raises quail in their backyard. And she's always been amazed with the beautiful colors, the patterns of the eggs. And they explain that each bird lays a unique egg, some a light sand color, some with ebony spots, and even a few are turquoise. Oh, that's so weird. I had no idea they could actually be turquoise. I've had quail eggs a lot. Like, I used to pack them all the time in my kids' lunches because they're cute. And honestly, kids don't eat that much. And so it's kind of nice you just give them 2 quail eggs so it's a little bit easier. And so Deanna explains that they had so many colors from the quail eggs to choose from that they knew this would be perfect for this particular art challenge. And as you guys can probably imagine, it took a lot of patience and omelets. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of omelets. Although they are small, quail eggs are not that big. To dry, sort, and place each shell. Oh, I never even thought about that. So you have to get the quail egg. You got to eat your omelets. You got to dry out the eggshells. You have to sort them. And then you have to arrange them. Oh my God, that is a crazy amount of work. And this has got to be a lot of quail eggs, you guys, because This mosaic, you can see it's 7 inches by 6 inches, but quail eggs are small. I mean, you need to have a lot of them to be able to do something like this. So that is like really, really funny. Yeah, like Rainbow saying mini omelets. Isn't it funny the things that we do for our artwork, the things that we hoard in order to create, especially with something like this where it was household items. And Phoebe P is saying so many details, it looks so cohesive. And 10,000 Crows says, respect to Deanna for all the hard work that went into this. Yeah, like Zoe's saying, you've got to hope they'll break into the right size. I mean, this is a crazy amount of work. And if you guys go and you look up close into the detail, you'll notice that the pieces are all different sizes. Like there are some pieces that are bigger. There's some that are really, really tiny. I mean, I imagine that half the work, in addition to collecting the eggshells, was just sorting them, like trying to figure out, okay, where are all the dark ones, where are all the light ones, where are all the spotted ones? I mean, that's really crazy. Tom G is saying, I wonder if it's temporary or glued. Yeah, I actually don't know because Deanna didn't explain. But yeah, I'd be curious too. I mean, it's such a beautiful, delicate piece. And the fact that it's a portrait of a quail is even better. I mean, what a cohesive image that you put together, Deanna. Okay, the next artist we're going to look at is Sarah C. from the US. And this is, again, somebody else who just stumbled on some of the items that they used. So Sarah says, I was looking around my house for supplies I could use, and Sarah found a bag of paint chips that they had left over from a project from 4 years ago. See, you never know. That's why, as an artist, I always feel like I don't want to throw things out because I'm like, maybe in 10 years, I might need this wood mallet. So who knows? So Sarah says, most of the colors that they had were reds, blues, and greens. And so they decided to create cherries with a blue background to contrast against the red and green tones of the cherries. Isn't that so cool that actually the limitation of colors that Sarah had helped to determine the composition and layout? And Sarah explains also they've been eating cherries all summer. Guess that's why it was the first thing to come to mind. And Sarah spent hours cutting the paint chips into random pieces, arranging the values, and gluing them down on paper. Now, here's the thing, you guys. From this view, wow, the technique is immaculate. I mean, this is basically like a puzzle piece. Like, this is why I could never do mosaics, because you really have to get things to actually fit together. And so that alone is incredibly time consuming. And little things like, well, it's not really a little thing, but like Tessa is saying, love the lighting in this piece. Yeah, like if you guys notice those cast shadows that are underneath the cherries, the sheen of the highlights of the cherries, I mean, they really look shiny. They remind me of that. And then I just love the variation of greens that are going on in that leaf. So let me show you guys a closer up image, because I just love it when you can see something up close and you really feel like you can understand how something is made. So you can see from a distance, the technique, it's like you don't notice little things like the glue and stuff like that. But like here, you really can get a sense of how the piece was made. So I think you did an amazing, I mean, I don't know, my head spins like thinking about putting something like this together. And it's slow when you have this many pieces, you're trying to get them to fit together. You're trying to work it together as a composition. There's so many things going on. Phoebe is saying, would this also double as a collage? Yeah, we had a lot of questions from people saying, well, what's the difference between a collage and a mosaic? Honestly, I don't really know where the line is. And as you guys know, with a lot of media and genres in visual arts, there is oftentimes not a very fine line in terms of what is what. I mean, I've been to shows called The Drawing Show that had video installations in them. So it's like, it doesn't really matter that much, I suppose. I mean, it just depends on how you want to look at it. But to me, this is really, really cool. Blue Will Spirit is saying, these look so simple, yet simplicity takes such a long time. Yeah, I was telling people the other day that the thing about being a gallery director is you always feel like if you do a good job, the work is invisible. And that's the thing about a lot of these collage, these mosaic pieces we're looking at, is that the effort seems to almost disappear. Like people don't notice it because it's so well done. And that's a good thing. I think when things just look like they flow, it's so much better. Like, you know, these singers, these pop stars, they always sing like they're in pain. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to you sing if you sound like you're in pain. I want to listen to like Aretha Franklin, who sounds like she is just having a blast. So yeah, that lack of visibility of the hard work and the effort is definitely something that happens when you do a really good job. Amanda is saying, really love this challenge for the massive variety of items used by everyone. So interesting. Yeah, really, really fun to see what people decided to use. Okay, the next artist we're going to look at is Anya Dickinson Cove from the US. And so actually Anya collected the materials for the project before having a concept. And you really can do it either way. I mean, maybe you have an image you want to do, then you pick the supplies based on that, or vice versa. So Anya explains they found leaves and flowers on a walk through their neighborhood, pressed them to make them easier to work with. And so the feather-like texture of the leaves reminded her of birds, which inspired the composition. Oh, absolutely. Do you guys see those two like brown wings that are spreading to the upper left and right-hand corner? I mean, those to me really make the composition, Anya, because those have such a overarching tone to them. They almost feel like they're housing the rest of the composition. And then I love how bold the yellow leaf in the center is. And that's really fun because that gives your composition a certain degree of structure, so that if you guys look at the bottom, all those like itty bitty tiny triangles, those are very fragmented and they're very scattered, but it's like Anya's getting away with it because there's so many other parts of the composition that are really holding it together. And then Anya, another thing that I really like is the contrast. Like, do you guys see that this piece, even though it has color and stuff like that, it really does have a broad range of values. Like, it's got the darkest darks, it got some grays, there's some lighter areas, and that can be tricky to do because especially when you're collecting items, you don't always have a lot of control over something like that. So I love that part of it. And what a brilliant idea to press the items in advance, because especially with leaves, it's like once they start curling up and once they start getting crunchy, they're a lot harder to use. So I thought that was a really good preliminary decision that was done before it was put together. Yeah. Kankana is saying, is this an owl? I'm not sure. I didn't read it as an owl. I mean, there's so many different ways you can read the composition. I mean, I sort of saw that pink. Oh, I guess Karen is saying it's a hibiscus nose. I guess you know your flowers way better than me, Karen, because I can't recognize half of these. But I sort of thought that the hibiscus, the pink thing in the middle, I sort of read that as a beak. And then the body of the bird for me was the yellow leaf. But it seems like you could definitely interpret it however you want, which is really cool. Okay, the next artist we're going to look at is Karen Arts, who is live with us in the chat. We love it when you guys are here and having your work featured. And so Karen says in their statement that there are two words to describe what this experience was like, and that is stumbled upon. And so a lot of these pieces, they really owe more to chance and meticulous planning. And then Karen also has this piece called Forest Scene. It's called Woodland Walk, where Karen stumbled upon ingredients during her walk and used the forest floor as my canvas. How cool. Because I think for a lot of people, the first thought is, oh, I need a piece of paper or cardboard, something to hold up the mosaic. But the fact that this got created in the forest on the floor, and maybe somebody stumbles on it later, is just really beautiful. And I'll tell you, this is one of those mosaics. If you propose this to me as a student, I probably would say, that sounds really literal. I don't think that would work out so well. But Karen, I think you did something with scale in the objects that really worked out very, very well, because the scale sort of messes with you a little bit. Like, part of me says, oh yeah, that's a single leaf, but then does that represent a larger chunk of the tree? And so you can never quite figure out if this is the literal trunk or if it's a branch of a trunk. Like, I don't know. I keep going back and forth. And I just think that is the coolest thing. Tom, this is exactly the word that I would use to describe Karen's pieces. I mean, they're just so rich, especially these ones Karen said from their mother's garden. So Karen says that my mom, who has lovingly tended her gardens for more than 60 years, picks every flower and seed pod individually when they're just right. Working with the resulting wonderful colors and textures made it an almost fail-safe project for even a beginner like me. But you know something, you guys, so much of this really has to do with recognizing the potential in the object, because anybody can pick up items and just throw them together. That's not a difficult thing. But I do think that a lot of people, they just look at stuff, they're like, oh, those are flowers. Like, not a big deal, right? And some people might look at lentils and say, oh, that's lunch, right? But the fact that you see the potential of what that object could do, that is half the artistic process here. And I feel like, Karen, that's what you did, is you recognized the patterns, the colors, you saw how they could come together. I mean, this one that I saw before, let me go back here. Yeah, this one really was like a waterfall to me. I mean, it has this like cascading motion that comes down, and the translucency of some of those petals is really, really cool. Oh, and I like this comment from Emma, who's saying the forest floor one feels like it could be a page in a children's book. Yeah, like this one really has a narrative quality to it. Whereas these are a lot more abstract and they're a little bit more open-ended. But I mean, what beautiful experimentation that you did. Yeah, Kankana saying these artworks are so cool. It makes us realize how beautiful nature really is. Yep, really beautiful work. Okay, the next artist we're going to look at is Frances B. Cannon from the US. And these are petals that are plucked from flowers that Frances grew in their own garden, including the basil and the sunflowers. Frances explains, I love the diverse textures and colors that can be found in a garden. The favorite detail in this collage is the sunflower leaf eyelashes. Yeah, don't you guys love these? You can see them on the right-hand side detail. Isn't this perfect how the green leaves on the outside of the sunflower double as being eyelashes? And then, you know what else is really cool too, is I love that it's like a semicircle for the eye, because I feel like if it was just the plain sunflowers, like a circle in the middle, I feel like that might be a little bit too much. But I feel like looking at the way that Frances has positioned the eyes, you really get a feeling like the person's looking up. And that's such a cool thing. It's like Frances didn't even construct the eyes. Like Frances just saw, again, the potential in those sunflowers to transform and turn into something else. Yeah, like Tom G is saying here, the portrait feels whimsical and happy. And a big part of that too, I think, is also, I guess this is sort of hair. The yellow petals that are extending outwards, that super, super bright, luscious magenta that's going on in there, and a lot of layering too. I think a lot of you guys probably noticed that layering is a big part of a mosaic. When you choose to put an object over another, or if you choose to put one that's half layered on top of another. I mean, most of these mosaics we're looking at really do rely on that interaction of the individual objects to really get going. Phoebe is saying, it's so pretty. It reminds me a little of the flowers from the animated Alice in Wonderland movie. Yeah, absolutely. It has that really brilliant charm that just captures you right away, which is so, so fun. Okay, the next artist we're going to look at is Heather Honiger. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. But I guess Heather has been hoarding for 15 years an old pink bathtub, 2 years of experimenting with mosaic art, plus 6 months of pandemic-induced staring at a sad backyard. All of these factors converge into the compulsion to create a colorful planter. That's a lot of effort to create a colorful planter. I think it's amazing. It's like super ambitious. So Heather explains that they wanted to show like a really bold, cheery look into their bland garden. And so Heather scavenged brightly colored dishes, flower pots, leftover bathroom tile. And also Heather loved the smashing part. That sounds awesome. Like you just get all these dishes and pots just hack away at them. I did that to a couple of my beeswax sculptures a few months ago. It felt really good. Highly recommend doing that if you have a creative reason to do that. And then after that, Heather says that the challenge of puzzling together the pieces into floral and leaf patterns, and Heather actually created draft versions on their garage floor and looked at photos over and over again until she was happy with the design. And then came the final gluing and grouting, which was exacting and satisfying. Yeah, I imagine that must be really, really fun, is like all that work to smash those pieces, arrange them. Oh, it sounds fabulous. I mean, this makes me want to do mosaics, and I'm not a mosaic person. So really cool. And I love how parts of this are really three-dimensional. Like there's that one plate in the center of this photo that looks like it was not smashed. It looks like it was stuck down as it was. And that one really leaps outwards. But then there are like these smaller areas that do tend to go a little bit more flat. So one thing that I think really worked well for this project was really challenging people in terms of how three-dimensional you wanted to go. Like, did you want things to really pop out? Did you want it to have a flatter look? And really, there was no correct way to do it. It really was just depending on the types of things that you wanted to do. Blue Wolf Spirit says, are you going to fill the tub with dirt and grow something in it? It sounds like that's the plan. I mean, Heather, I would love to see what it looks like when you actually get all your stuff all together and plant it. That would be really cool. Oh, and I like this comment a lot from GSD. Reminds me of Gaudi in Spain. So Gaudi, well, you spell it Gaudi, and I'm probably mispronouncing it, sorry. But Gaudi is an architect, and he's got, is it Sagrada Familia? I can't remember the name of the church. But anyway, really, really cool. Like similar weird, funky organic shapes are in a lot of Gaudi pieces. So yeah, definitely take a look at that. Okay, let's see. Let's announce who the winners are of the August Art Dare. We have an honorable mention and we have a prize. Honorable mention goes to Deanna for her Quail Egg Mosaic. We were just so blown away by the incredibly immaculate work that went into this, the concept of it, the fact that you have quail eggs in your backyard. I mean, it just feels so personal and intimate. We just love the entire concept overall. So great job, Deanna, for winning the honorable mention. And our prize winner is Karen Arts. We were so thrilled, Karen, when we saw your pieces, the fact that you made so many of them and really transformed these objects. I mean, Karen explains in their statement, they said that they felt that it was sort of fail-safe because how beautiful the objects are. But I don't know that that's necessarily true. Like, I think you can definitely have beautiful components, but not really know how to compose them. And so I think that you should take more credit, Karen, because I think there's so much that is going into this. And you just did an amazing job. We were just so thrilled to see all the rhythms and the colors, and we were just so thrilled. So great job, Karen. Congratulations to Deanna and Karen for winning the August Art Dare, and to everybody who participated. I know we weren't able to feature every single artist, but I mean, I love seeing the Art Dare pieces. I mean, you've heard me say before that it's like Christmas morning. It's like opening all these presents and I didn't have to do any work and they all look so cool. So thank you to everybody for participating. And remember, we still have a couple more days left in the September Art Dare, which is to design a movie poster or several. Some of you guys have been really, really productive. And so a couple more days to design those movie posters, and we would love to see what you guys are doing. If you are doing the Art Dare, you want to tag us on Instagram and also use hashtag ArtProfDare. We also have a submission form on artprof.org if you're not on social media, so you can send it to us that way. And ArtProf has a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. I will be hanging out in the Discord in about a few minutes. I will be in the post live streams channel, so we can say congratulations to Karen. And Deanna, I believe, is not in the chat, but we can definitely say congratulations to her as well. subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join the Art Prof family. And as always, we want to give a big thank you to our top Patreon supporters who make Art Prof possible. Thank you to everybody who participated in the Art Dare and everybody for rooting each other on. I mean, I cannot tell you how much that means to the artist to have people really encouraging you, supporting you, because let's just say not all the internet is like that. So thank you so much, you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.